Hey everyone, and this evening, as well as the remainder of this month, has once again been thrown in a state of flux of what I want to cover. But as I had before, I always make sure to have backups in mind, and it's why I often have to be firm but polite and pass on requests. Not because more often than not, if I have to table one on topic to talk about. I've always got two more take its place, so that being the case, I present my thoughts on on how I revisited the original PlayStation and Silent Hill this year, and why you should too, especially given how after the longest time of watching several titles draw inspiration from was once a titan of the survival horror genre, and seeing the resurgence their rivals have had. There is also talk about giving this one a full on remake, as they did with the second game, which turned out to be pretty decent. So let's begin. While the game never had the biggest budget, and there were obviously technical limitations in making in a, a asset of the game in engine as opposed to having pre-rendered backgrounds like other titles of the time. It is indeed those limitations ended up uh, giving us some of the most iconic and recognizable things about it. I mean, the the fog, which contributed to the draw distance, and in turn influenced the setting of a town that has been as enigmatic as its goings on, where not being able to fully see what's in front of you, behind you, or in any direction, and is definitely an experience that still is worth it. I mean, that especially as the tone of the game and story I'll get into live in a few moments, when it's had a different set of influences as as the games often do. I mean, whereas its contemporary Resident Evil was influenced a lot by the works of George Romero, being more satirical and darkly humorous as is spooky. He he this game and the franchise as a whole owe quite a bit to with the elevated horror film Jacob's Ladder, which is really good, really intense, and the works of David Lynch, and one of the many reasons why I will miss him given his passing earlier this year, where it's not just these supernatural whole chimeras and skinless dogs are coming after you, it's your own psyche that can be just as frightening. And indeed. Now, let's get into the story. I mean, as a widowed man and named Harry Mason is searching for his daughter Cheryl, who went missing after the two of them wound up in a car accident, and in the town where none of the phones or radios are working. And however, the radio he does find does prove to be quite useful for letting you know when the monsters nearby, with the feedback getting louder as they get closer. Er, and with the reluctant help of a police officer, her named Sybil, who is the last one remaining in town, Um, they have to not only find his daughter, her, but also unravel the much greater and more horrific mysteries of the town before it's too late. And it's definitely a one that always stuck with me. He, even though I was much younger than the intended demographic when I first played this game, especially as someone who, like, the first one I played was the second installment on PS2, which I ended up liking so much, actually went back and played that first one on as well, which is often the case. I mean, and as how we discovered it now, on top of it being a game where it's not hard to find if you know the right people. Well, I actually was able to get on PS3 after my I was able to re up my PSN for the month and had some stuff left over for so and it doesn't take up that much space at all, only about 294 or megs on a console. Oh, that's 500 gigs, man. So, and the version I am playing with is relatively close to how I remember it. I mean, where it's another instance where the tank controls make more sense, especially he given how Harry is not a elite law enforcement member like Chris or Jill, or even one who's trained to be one like Leon. On he simply an ordinary person to an extraordinary situation, and so if you run too far or are low on health or both mean he actually ends up hyperventilating heavily. And even playing low difficulty settings, and it's not always easy to find extra rounds for your weapon or medical or supplies, so you need to make every shot and med pack count. To me, it takes me at least 2 shots to take out one of a a what can they call a hog, and about 3 or 4 shots for the flying chimeras. I mean, as that I'm seeing, and and I also find it interesting in how you find your way around, how even when you have the map near the beginning, I mean, you still need to physically look out for street signs, and it is definitely often a trial and error process. And I do emphasize the error, or if this is going to be your first time playing it, or in my case, my first time in a while. I also relearning where all the secrets are and figuring out the spawns of each type of monster. Or I am certainly not going to hold against you if you end up having to reset and use save backups, main, because again, no autosaves here. I mean, here it's not really quite like having to find a typer and then making sure you've got enough ink for it, but uh, the save spots are in fixed locations on notepads. So far, I found the one in the abandoned diner, which is the first one after you're attacked and Sybil helps treat your wounds. And I also found the one in the convenience store, or with the 88. I mean, apparently, even though they rooted a lot of things influence in American horror films, the layout of the not quite 7-Eleven is based on what you'd see in one of the Japanese stores, which they actually had being stateside as a way to help boost business. So I'll have to take a look at that. I mean, as well, man. And also, I find the whole just some of the other callbacks, hacks, and Easter eggs amusing. In the Queen Burger, a very somewhat Englishy mashup of Burger King and Dairy Queen. In the only royalty, yeah, I will accept the ones that serve me delicious as treats, ate some flame broiled meats, man, and the and they also have have often literary connections as well, where here at some of the streets you go down are Matheson and Bradbury, no doubt paralleling legendary Richard Matheson and Ray Bradbury, both of whom's work also influenced these games quite a lot. I mean, what? Just because I spend a lot of nights playing these doesn't mean I don't read sometimes. Come on. Naturally, the game ended up being a surprise hit upon its initial release, one that the publisher was not expecting, and so apparently the publisher's treatment of the developers is actually going on a lot longer than one might think. And I mean, that was, and I'm not even going to dignify some of the other experiments, ones like the infamous rail shooters, which would be a better fit for RE than Silent Hill, or the even more infamous patchy slot response Spain. If you were to ask me what I would do with these monsters, my thoughts would not be using them as a means to help people gamble. I mean, just a thought. And and I would still have to think about out what I would keep or what I would change in a potential remake. Like, off the top of my head, I would keep the basic story intact, act, as well as a, a foreboding in tone, but also include like some of the other endings as like a little bonus. Like it made my day when the remake retained the second game retained like the my favorite ending, the Shiba Inu dog that was the real man behind the curtain, and 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 but obviously it would have to be like the usual dual analog control scheme, aim where left stick moves your character, right stick aims your weapon, and where in order to compensate, level the playing field, they had to change how the streets are laid out, how the monsters behave. Though we have made a lot of advancements, and since 1999, I'll admit, I can totally see them sticking with Unreal, Heal, for how the characters and everything is rendered, or, and perhaps given how I also appreciate another detail like the vibration of your gamepad matches his Harry's heartbeat when he's low on health. I would actually appreciate if they did something similar with the DualSense, and especially given how the remake of the second game at the time, the exclusive of for PS5, likely on unless to my knowledge, unless they announced tons that coming to Xbox and PC without my knowledge, man. Things move so fast, hard to keep up sometimes. And I'm also interested in trying Silent Hill F. I'm glad that it's that the game itself is good, even if the discourse about the story and the new combat system is ongoing. I mean, I just would prefer it if they kept up the what made the series work to begin with. As opposed to who making web series of really bad acting and CG, and some well intentioned but ultimately misguided messaging about one's own headspace. Even though short messages were free, So I mean, you'd only be wasting time as opposed to money, so there's that. But if you still have access, as be it legitimate or otherwise, I definitely can say that it's definitely worth revisiting Silent Hill again this year in the spooky season. Just so you know, I'm not just spending my nights off climbing through the ranks of Zero Royale. I'm watching Dawn to Dawn, which is also true. That'll be all for now. Still again soon. Happy Halloween, everyone. Hmm.